Welcome to the DAZN Boxing Show presented by AutoZone. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the Latin Snake, Sergio Mora. And Sergio, Conor Benn is back this weekend, taking on Peter Dobson, 150-pound catchweight fight at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. It was only just a few months ago that we saw Conor in action in Orlando. He outpointed Rodolfo Orozco in this fight. Now he is slowly moving back down to welterweight in taking on Peter Dobson. So I'll just ask you this. What are you expecting? What do you want to see from Conor Benn in this fight?
Well, I expect him to be a little bit more sharper and a little bit more aggressive against Dobson. Dobson's not as quick. Well, that's not even as quick. He doesn't have fast hands or fast feet. Neither did Orozco, but Orozco was a big Mexican. I mean, he's a 6-footer. He was from Sinaloa. He hadn't been knocked out in over 30 fights, has a chin. So that was a fight where I didn't expect Conor Benn to actually get the stoppage. In this fight, you know, even though Dobson is undefeated, he doesn't have quick hand speed. He doesn't have quick foot speed. His upper body movement is a little bit stationary. He has a really good right hand. I mean, it's not the fastest, but it's a good right hand, respectable. Throws it straight, throws it around the guard as a hook, nice uppercut, digs down to the body. So the right hand is the main thing that Conor Benn has to look out for. But Conor has faster hands. I would say he's a harder puncher, way more explosive. The combinations that he selects are just smarter. So I expect him to look really good and explosive in this fight against an unbeaten fighter. So it's going to be a really good feather on his hat to come back strong and could stop an undefeated fighter.
Yeah, I think he is being set up to look really good in this fight. Dobson is undefeated, as we've noted, but his resume is not very good. You know, very much kind of club level, maybe club plus level, if you want to call it that. He's never faced anyone with the kind of talent that Conor Benn has. And I was watching their first face-off out in Vegas, and look, you can't interpret too much from this, but I thought Dobson looked a little rattled. I thought Dobson had kind of a look on his face like, this is a lot bigger than anything I've experienced. And Conor Benn, if nothing else, has experienced high-profile fights, high-profile events. He's been involved with them basically ever since he really started to take boxing seriously several years ago. So I'm expecting Conor Benn to look spectacular in this fight. I think he has a great chance to stop Dobson. He's coming down in weight. The last fight against Orozco was a huge 154-pounder. That was a guy that had fought as high as super middleweight. So that he didn't get a stoppage in that fight was not entirely surprising. Dobson's been fighting right around that 147, 150-ish range for most of his career. This, to me, is a fight that Conor Benn can look great in. But even though he didn't get the stoppage, let me ask you this about the Orozco fight. Like, did you think he looked good in that fight? Did you think he looked rusty coming off a nearly 1-year layoff? I mean, what do you think Conor Benn is coming into this fight?
Look, we called that fight, and whenever I'm studying opponents, I like to study not only how they fight, who they fought, but where did they learn to fight. Orozco was from Sinaloa. That's where my mom's from. That's where Cesar Chavez and a lot of great fighters come from. I mean, there's just something in the water down there. I knew it was going to be a tough fight for Conor Benn. And I remember after the fight, Conor Benn told me, "Hey, Serge, that was my first Mexican. Man, he was tough." Yeah, for that being your first Mexican, he was 6'1". He probably rehydrated to like 175, 180 pounds. So he was fighting a near light heavyweight. So he fought more than just a junior middleweight on that one. So I expect him to look a lot better here with Dobson. Dobson's nowhere going to be as big. He's not going to rehydrate as big. He's not it's not that the speed I'm lacking about, the power. I think he's not going to have the power and the strength and the size of an Orozco. So I expect Con to look really good here. It's going to be an explosive performance. Mark my words. Just Conor Benn's just way too explosive. Dobson, if you stand in front of him, he can be dangerous. He has a good right hand, and he alternates it all around. But you can't compare the speed and how explosive Conor Benn is when a man is in front of him. He really is dangerous. So I expect him to look really, really good in this fight.
Yeah, Orozco tested positive for a banned substance after that Conor Benn fight as well, which is fairly ironic given everything Conor Benn's gone through over the last couple of years. Conor has made it clear that he'd like to get back down to 147 and challenge the top fighters there. Right now, Errol Spence has most of the belts at 147. Boots Ennis is down there. Devin Haney may move up there. We heard Oscar De La Hoya say recently Ryan Garcia may move up there at some point. At this stage of Conor Benn's career, do you think he's ready for some of the big names in the welterweight division?
No, not yet. Not yet. I think he's in the same level that Alexis Rocha was in just a few months ago, and he took his first loss against Santillán. So I think that's exactly where Conor Benn is. He's at the brink. You know, he's a contender, you know, maybe in the top 10, maybe right outside it, but he's definitely a contender. I mean, he has the speed, he has the power, he has the last name, the pedigree, and he's a good-looking guy. I mean, this is a good-looking, guy from the UK, black that can speak Spanish. He's a marketable guy, Chris Mannix. So this is a guy that if you maneuver him well, he can be a star. But he's taken some good challenges, and he's passed the test every single time. That knockout of Chris Algieri, a former champion, was very impressive. But then came the bad thing, the PED. Whether he did it or not, it was a terrible look. But now, redemption. You come back, knock out a fighter like Dobson. He wasn't able to do it to Orozco, and he maybe, turned a couple of heads like, well, there you go. No, give Orozco credit. He's never been knocked out in over 30 plus fights, and he's a big fighter. But if he can't get it done against Dobson, people are going to start talking. People are going to start talking maybe if you can't knock him out at 147 or at 150, what do you expect to do at 154 and start questioning his strength? So I expect him to look spectacular on Saturday, Chris Mannix, I'm telling you.
Yeah, look, you mentioned Alexis Rocha, and I think he is kind of on that level Rocha was on before Rocha's last fight, where he's beaten down a lot of guys that are on kind of that C+ tier. And, no disrespect to Chris Algieri, I think he'd admit at that stage when he fought Conor Benn, he wasn't the guy that he was during his world championship days. The one uncertainty I have with Conor Benn is, can he take a big shot? Because he has been pretty carefully matched, I've thought, throughout most of his pro career against guys that
I don't
are...
know. You're not giving him enough credit on his resume. I think his resume
but look,
right
he has,
where it needs to be.
Sergio, how many guys has he faced that you would qualify as big punchers? Like, Algieri wasn't a big puncher. No. Adrian Granados wasn't a big puncher. Samuel Vargas wasn't really a big puncher. Like, he's got a lot of guys on there that have talent and that have been fringy world level guys, but not anybody that you would say is a heavy-handed guy. And I want to see what happens when Conor Benn is in with someone like that. Can he take a clean shot? Can he recover from a clean shot? Can he throw ones of, got those kind of shots of his own when he's in a firefight? That's why, to bring it full circle, if we're talking about 147 pounds, I think Alexis Rocha is a great fight for him. I mean, we just did a fight where Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya were talking about doing more business together. It's a great fight to do business together. Alexis Rocha has shown he can sell some tickets in Southern California. Conor Benn, because he's still trying to navigate his issues over in the UK, has said he's starting to look at the US as a place he's going to have more fights. Why not make Conor Benn against Alexis Rocha? That's a fight I think both those guys would probably want, and I think we'd learn a lot about Conor Benn in a fight like that.
Yeah, and that's the reason I brought up Alexis Rocha, because look, he got stopped with Santillán. I mean, he lost against Santillán, and it was a fight where he
got stopped. He got stopped.
I know, but it was a fight where it was a physical fight. So it's going to be a good matchmaking if Conor Benn can actually take this fight. And I know Alexis Rocha will take this fight. He doesn't avoid anybody. It's a great fight. He's a southpaw. He's strong, coming off a loss. And, we don't know where his confidence is at after that fight. It makes sense, and it'll sell because Rocha is he sells tickets. We've seen the butts and seats that he puts all across Southern California. Just because he took his first loss, that was an exciting fight. It was an exciting fight while it lasted. Santillán was just too much for him. So after this fight, I would love to see him somewhere around that area, because I wouldn't want to see him against like a Rashidi Ellis. I think that's probably a fight that will make Conor Benn look a little bit bad. That's the type of fighter that Rashidi Ellis is. So Alexis Rocha, if you're going to promote him and navigate him through those waters, and Rocha's a strong southpaw, so you get the southpaw in there. I think that's an excellent matchup.
Yeah, and look, Rocha has said publicly in the past he was willing to go over to the UK to fight Conor Benn. I think he'd welcome the opportunity to fight Benn stateside. That I think is the next test. I think these last two fights, Orozco and now Peter Dobson, those are, get back type of fights. He's off for almost a year, been going through a lot outside the ring, most would say of his own making outside the ring. But now he's going to get some of these get back fights. And then you start looking at step up fights. And Alexis Rocha at 147, I think is a pretty good step up fight. So I am down for Ben Rocha if he stays at welterweight in 2024.
Never say I'm down, Chris Mannix. It's unbecoming.